that holy, you know. This is not. If this is where it is, it's not going to be. It's humid here. I'm used to Jerusalem, where it's chilly at night. Do you use your air conditioners at night now? Is there a speaker here or something like that?
Yeah, the shoulder roll is right there.
What?
It's right there in the shoulder.
And what are we supposed to be doing with that?
So he's on his way. I don't know how to set it up though. I don't know how it works.
Do you hear me or do I have to scream?
The acoustics are very good.
Oh, they are? Okay. The humidity is terrible. Thank you very much. I just wait for my glass of water and I'm starting, okay? Whew. There's got to be a way we can do this in our classroom with air conditioning. Is that connected to something, or is that like Shema Mefarish? What?
If you would like it to be, then I can connect it.
I think, yeah. I mean, listen, you all hear me well? You don't need a speaker? Okay, don't need. Yeah, bring it over. Yeah, a Heisa mikveh, a Kalta mikveh, it's all the same. We need air conditioning here.
My humblest apologies.
You're humble. Yeah. I didn't know you were so humble.
I'm quite, yes.
Did you actually read that trash?
What?
The thing you sent me.
I'm gonna disagree about its trashness.
I know him. He used to come and ask me questions. Not this, not the Bible, etc. We used to have conversations. Who shatuach? You know, the monitor has one line to it. That means brain dead.
ממש מעניין אבל.
אני עוד פעם, זה לא פועל ככה אצלנו.
נכון, אבל זה לא רק הוא.
Okay. Should I read it?
Scan it.
You sure?
I read it in one day.
I'll give it an hour. Is it worth it?
I think so.
אם לא, אתה מוציא אותי לארוחת ערב. עשינו? I want Italian. Yeah, please, enjoy it. Make an airplane out of it. Take the chad. You only need one, but
I'll give it to anybody.
Whatever you want. Okay. Oh, wow. Where is he? Where's Jojo? He bought the tea? Who bought the tea? Who? Oh. I'm waiting for Yossi. He's going to bring me a glass of hot water. Right? So between tea, hot water, and cold water, I'll be taken care of. Oh, then he's an air conditioner. Well, okay, we start. There's a very odd parsha this week, and that's the Dor Hapalagah, which is quite awkward. Just reading the Chumash, nothing makes sense. At the simplest level, how tall do you think towers were in that kind of history? Remember, they're made out of clay bricks. There's no iron. This is not the Iron Age. Okay? Pre-Iron Age. Okay? How tall were towers? Did you ever hear about the famous hanging garden, the big hanging gardens of Babylon? Okay? How tall were those? 3 stories. So we're not talking about the Empire State Building here. Let's put this mildly. We're not even talking about a 5-story building. At the time when Solomon built his temple, which is later, on bedrock, okay, and totally with marble, not with clay bricks, how big was it? It's a nice 10 stories. That's it. Okay, so this tower was, 3 stories? We're doing well. Because remember, it's based not on bedrock, right? You read the Chumash? Anybody read the Chumash? Read the Bible? Did you read the Bible? Don't know if you read the Bible. It's an art scroll, so you can at least read that. Okay? It says that they went to a valley, which was clay, right? Hello? And since there was clay there, why don't you, sit? Here, there's a place right there. Sit, come on, enjoy. I won't bite you. I can't. The plastic is here. Oh, come on, sit. You make me feel terrible. We're doing a little bit of biblical criticism. Oh, LaBelle. Hello. I missed you. Today I mentioned something in class. I said the only one which would understand me would be Yushao. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying, I miss you terribly. My learning, they don't understand anyway. You know what I mean? That part, garnished. They no education in America. Okay, anyway, so obviously, what are we talking about? Did you read the Bible? It said they went to a valley which was clay, chemar, clay, right? And what did they do? And they took the clay and they baked it, and you had clay bricks. How tall can a building be based not on bedrock but on clay land, and nothing more than clay bricks without any iron in it? You don't need an airplane to knock it down like September 11th, you understand? 3 stories is a big one. So this Migdal, you obviously think Migdal, you think of this like a steeple, at least a steeple with a clock in it, you know what I mean? Like some kind of ancient Christian phallus symbol. No, we're not talking about that. See, only he would understand what I just meant. Okay? No, it's not even that. It's not even like a watchtower. Halavai, what epis gewend dort. There's going to a 3-story dumb building. That's all it was. 4 stories, the Shana Guzma. Because remember, I recall reading the recollection on the Hanging Towers of Babylon, which was one of the wonders of the world. So I think it was 3 or 4 stories. That was the whole geschäft over there. The ganze. So what are we talking about exactly? They wanted to fight God. We're going to sit up there and shoot arrows into God from where? From 3 freaking stories. You can do it on top of your King David building. Okay, what's the story? There's some medrash that says we're going to we're going to support the sky. They shouldn't throw it on us. From what? From 3 stories? I always want hot water. I get into it the whole time.
This is very hot.
Great.
Extremely hot.
I always love things which are very hot, like a hot ma'ariv. Hot chili peppers. Good music. Right. So really, I want to understand. How are you going to, how do they expect us to support the sky from 3 stories? Did you read Chumash? Read Rashi? No, that's medieval. You don't read things like that. You only read the primary Babylonian sources, or the biblical sources, okay? So otherwise, if you read Chumash and Rashi, they were going to support the skies. Man, they were supporting the skies. That means they were flying somewhere, because there ain't no way 3 stories are going to support skies. So how do you understand that? I don't know. It's like medrash. It's like a bechina of something. It's a nice way of saying, I need no mavin klum. Beseder, lekuba alai. Rashi says, Lemad l'chshon chalomer eini yodea. First, before you want to know anything, you have to train yourself to say what you don't know, which is 99.9% of the reality. Then you learn and you know. That's the way it works. If you think you know, you'll never get anywhere. So what does it mean? Migdal, Ken Manon. And here's another one. Where does, ancient times, did they take you already on the land of Israel at all? Do you know what this country looks like? Right, you're still stuck in the quarantine. You know the King David, and that's all you know. Okay, well, if you go, for example, Israel is a rain trap. The topography is as such. I mean, I still remember when I first came to Israel. I was reading the Chumash. I was this biblical kid. It says Eretz Nachalei Mayim and all that. I figured, look, I grew up from Chicago, the Chicago River. Are you talking about a lake? Michigan is a lake. You understand? It's a lake. It's bigger than the whole freaking country here. So you know what I mean? So that's a lake. I come here and I see this little leaking faucet called the Jordan River that you can spit across. And the Major Daily would not paint that in green on St. Pat's Day. It's nothing. You really serious? That you call a river? The Jordan River? We're going to use, I don't know, some leaking faucet that ran through from the north to the south of the country. They love calling these things in a grandeur way. It's a river. And do you ever see the Kinneret? It's like in a large swimming pool. That's all it is, surrounded by some nice scenery. And that they don't call it a lake, they call it an ocean. Right? The Sea of Galilee, they call it the Yam Kinneret. It's not Yamama, The Yam Kineret. Sometimes I blow. I was totally taken aback. I was sure this is a place with rushing rivers because it says Eretz Nachalei Mayim. Try finding a rushing river in this country, and I'll need a lawnmower for my palm. There ain't nothing's going to grow here, and there's not going to be any longer rushing rivers. So what did God promised me rushing rivers? Eretz Nachalei Mayim. Now, did God like work us over? Sold us a bill of goods? Where are those Nachalei Mayim? And the answer is very simple. This country, the topography, is full of dry creeks. And when it rains, the topography is such it's a rain catcher. Originally, before they asphalted everything, for example, the highway going near in Ashdod, that was a creek. That's a rain road that comes down from Hebron Hills over there and comes till the ocean there. Now that they paved it all, it floods the whole freaking place over there because the water has nowhere to go. Or, for example, I don't know if you know the highway, Ayalon, big highway, Ayalon near Tel Aviv. We haven't been there yet. Okay, it's a pretty decent-sized highway. It's not exactly Lakeshore Drive, but it's a highway. Okay, it's a highway, and you know what? That actually is a creek, which the rainwater are collected from certain parts of Israel, come down till it goes to the ocean. And then we catch it, there's different ways. But they basically paved it, so now I remember a time when it was so full, you couldn't, they didn't have the cars in there. It was really a lot of rain. This place is basically based not on rivers, but on rainwater. But it's a rain trap, which therefore it collects all the rain which comes down in this country, goes into two types of things, either in underground aquifers, you don't even know what that is if you're in America. There are underground lakes. The water seeps in, and yes, there's literally quite a few of them in this country. Those are what's called the aquifers. There's it's actually rainwater which came down, and you have what's called the different rain catching, which used to be through the wadi. A wadi is a dry riverbed, and when there's a serious rain, you can get flooded there. There are people that died there not that long ago when there are these flash floods because of these waters. That's the Nachalei Mayim. Nachalei Mayim means it's a rain trap. That's all it is. It's because of that. If you learn a little bit about history, you realize that in ancient Israel, no community built its home in the valley because there was danger of flooding. All the ancient towns, etc., are on the hillside. Little boxes on the hillside. Okay, there's no little houses in the prairie. They're all on the hillside. Oh, we get that straight because people were afraid of flooding. If you go to ancient Hebron, someday you will go to ancient Hebron and you'll have whatever it be. You'll probably, fly around with Shlomo Carlebach and his likes, and you'll see that on Shabbat Chayesor, they will take you, obviously, to further your Jewish education, or whatever excuse for that word is, and you will, obviously, you'll get a lot of fairy tales about Hebron from my friend Simcha Hachbaum, and you've been there, so you know what I mean. Yeah, he meets Avraham Avinu daily. You know what I mean? You understand, right? Okay, so you go to Hebron, you look that the old ancient Hebron. Where was Hebron at the time of the Avos? On the hillside, Tel Romeda, on the hillside. Ad Kidei Kach, that Rashi asked the question. The pasuk says that Yaakov Avinu sent Yosef mi Emek Hebron, from the valley of Hebron. So Rashi me asks, what's he doing there? No one lives in the Emek. Why not? Because they're afraid of floods. Okay? They all lived on the hillside. What's he doing in the Emek? So Rashi says, it's inference to a certain medrash. Mi Eitza Amuka Sheba Hebron. Look up Rashi. Rashi's bothered by that kind of a problem. Topography is such that no one lives in the valley. Everyone lives on the mountain. Okay, now you're in Babylon. There are no mountains. But there's hills. Go to Babylon. You can go to Iraq and see. Okay? There's hills there. Now, if you want to build a tower, would you build it in a valley or would you build it on a mountaintop? Logically. Well, if you want to get somewhere, you first use the natural topography of the land, and then you extend it with building, correct? Why in God's earth would you want to make a tower in a valley? It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. So what were they trying to do? That's the question. They wanted to build a tower. They wanted, according to Midrash, fight God. I don't know exactly what that means. Yeah, we're going to get on the tower and shoot arrows up from our 3-story building. Somehow they think, I guess they think God's will come down to get shot or something like that. And they're going to build this tower. Why would we want to come down even lower? So we're going to make it in the valley as opposed to on the hill. Nothing of this makes sense. It is quite awkward, and obviously it has to be seen in culture and context. Like all language must be perceived in culture and context. What is the cultural context of what they were doing? And if we understand what they were doing, we will understand. It's very clear they didn't plan to shoot arrows into the sky. They were not. They were quite knowledgeable when it came to theology. Let's understand who these people were before we go further. These people were not that long after creation, or not that long after the flood. Noah had just died not long before. Okay? One must understand. In other words, their grandfathers, or great-grandfathers, that was Shem, Cham, and Yafes. Do you want to meet them? For all I know, they were around, or they had just died. You know, there are many people there which sat on the lap of Shem and said, "Hey, granddaddy, you a sailor?" "No, but I've been on a boat." And he tells them all the story. There was this crazy boat, which he had a freaking zoo in there, and it makes no sense, because how many animals can you fit in that little boat? With greatest respect, did you measure them? Did anybody care about the measurements of the boat? Did you bother calculating? It's a yes or no question. Whoever says yes, please raise your hand. And all the hands are down. Obviously, you don't take the Bible seriously. Well, look it up. Calculate it. And remember, there's only one story for animals. There's a whole freaking story for how many people? Shvacham, Shem, Cham, Yafes with their wives, and Noah and his lady. That's it. And there's another floor just for animal food. Okay? Now, there's another floor, the equivalent of what Shem, Cham, Yafes and others is for all the animals in the world. Now, it could be, obviously, we must be talking about the animals in the Mesopotamian area. Because I really do not know, I really don't think that the flood encompassed the whole globe. It says before Shemesh, it didn't encompass Eretz Yisrael. So obviously, when it says Kol HaYikum, it doesn't mean everything. Lav Davka, right? Because it didn't count Eretz Yisrael. Now, God's earth. We know that the dispersion of population, at least according to the biblical narrative, starts from the end of the parsha, from Migdal Bavel. That's it, Misham Yafutzu Ha'amim, etc., if you recall. Prior to that, there wasn't that many people. Remember, we're only talking 10 generations after creation. Hello? So it ain't all that much, okay? Where'd they live? Did anybody get to Canada? Was there anybody in Newfoundland? Did someone get to the Yellow River in China? Did anybody get to Cape Town? No. There's no reason to think so. There's no reason to think so. I mean, for goodness sakes, how exactly would you cross the land, the ocean mass, and we take for granted the ocean was there, unless we believe that the plates were not moving yet, and they somehow got all the way to Canada. Okay. So you may have walked all the way from, or maybe they passed the Bering Straits, because that was still connected, and they went all the way from Mesopotamia up through, through the Caucasian, and they're going east towards India. Obviously, you want to see the Dalai Lama, and then somehow he got to China and crossed over, went up north, Siberia, and went to Canada. Could be. Possibility. Probability, you got to be funny. So now, why would God want to drown Toronto, Montreal, or the area, of course. Why would he, for God's sakes, I wouldn't even know where Alberta is. Why would he want to flood Alberta? Does anybody know where Alberta is? Okay. You know what I mean? Any Canadians here? No. You are? Okay, whatever. I don't think anybody knows exactly where Alberta is. Okay? Anyway, and if you do, kol hakavod. So the real question is, why would we want to flood Cuba? I can understand the story, Florida, preempting, but you know what I mean. Like, why would he want to do that? Does it make sense to you? That's the yes or no question. Does it make sense to you that he would want to destroy parts of the world which had no Homo sapiens there? And if there were sapiens which were not Homo sapiens, they definitely were not involved in the Dor Hapalagah epic. They were still eating berries. Okay? They definitely weren't doing what the Dor Hapalagah was doing. We have no indication of such. There was no email in those days, for goodness sakes, and they didn't have TV or iPads, whatever the thing. They don't know you. Okay? Some Neanderthal living in China didn't exactly know what the Homo sapien living in Mesopotamia was doing. He didn't even know he was alive. He didn't know he existed. He thought the world began and ended in the China Sea and the Yellow River, if he was there. So your obvious question is, do you really think there was any logical reason to say that God destroyed China? Oh, what about the animals? Now, the only reason God destroyed the animals is because they were affected by the bad behavior of the Homo sapiens, as brought down in Rashi and the spot, where you had to have evil Homo sapiens in order to influence the animals. But what about the freaking Amazon? There's animals there which haven't seen a human being yet. Were they also destroyed? You never asked this question? Should have. Okay, logically, no, they were not destroyed. You must come to a conclusion, just as Chazal understood that Kol HaYikumen does not mean all the world, it means all the inhabited world of the period. And obviously does not include Eretz Yisrael because the unique Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. So there was no flood here, by the way. So if you find fossils in Israel, you can't tell me the story about the flood. Okay? So now I want to understand this carefully. So just like Chazal knew to do that, Chazal obviously didn't, I don't know if they knew about China or they knew about Cuba, but if they would know, they would have said, obviously it means say the world the way we knew it. Dibber Tarek B'Lashim De Adam, as the Rambam explains in Fush and the Meir, it means God writes the biblical narrative according to the cultural capability of the local Girgashi farmer, which will hear and read the Bible at the time. That's why God described himself as having form and body, although he doesn't. Because the Girgashi or Prezi farmer, or I don't know what, or shoemaker, he's not exactly a theologian, doesn't really understand the ideas of an infinite God, no form. This is beyond his scope. Like a typical guy living in Brooklyn, or something like that. So, therefore, God wrote, and God wanted to infuse the world with a monotheistic message. I'm quoting Rambam here. Therefore, he spoke in a language like a Baptist priest, making them feel comfortable. The Lord, Massa, hallelujah. Okay, they all embrace it. It says, hallelujah, we believe. That's what God wanted. Rambam says that's why Dibra, Torah, Kalashem, Bnei Adam. Okay? So therefore, when it says, Kol HaYikum, what was the Yikum of the local Girgashi farmer? I don't think he did do well in geography, and geography at the time was quite small. Remember, Marco Polo had not yet got to China, and obviously Columbus wasn't even thought about yet. So do you really think they knew about a world outside of the Mediterranean basin? It's a yes or no question. Okay, well, I'm going to say they didn't. Okay? It's obvious anybody knows basic history. Okay? So obviously we're talking we're talking about the world the way man knew it. I'm Orthodox. Okay? The basic Hanochas that I've told you are more than obvious. I had them in my life, and I was so happy when I finally got a kuntres to one of the biggest Talmidim in the Chazon Ish, Rabbi Gedalia Nagel, which he actually writes these ideas. He's much sharper than me, and I was very happy to know this, because it made me feel redeemed. It's a davar pashut. It's a bisa b'kutcha. He says, how could you understand otherwise? Thank you for Rabbi Gedalia. He was the Reb Chaim Shkanevsky. He used to send his children to learn by Rabbi Gedalia. He was the Rav of Reb Chaim. He was the Rav of Shikna Chazon Ish from Bnei Brak. The Chazon Ish was Ramanim as the Paisik. And he was I learned by him for like 2 months. Interesting man. Okay, so basically, the Maisa, this is, I want you to understand. So this is Gdali Gezot, so it's mainstream Judaism, and I'm exonerated. So now that I need you to know that, it's very important, because you're going to hear a lot of other things which are poor Judaism. A guy should really fire his reps. Okay, he's got a great system, just got lousy reps and a bad PR system. But this is the emes, okay? This is a biyasa b'kutchet, the emes. So you don't have to worry about so many odd things you're going to pick up when you go to university. Doesn't fit, shtiyat, it's going to do anything. I can tell you more, we're not doing this today, okay? Next class on evolution and creation. Okay, let's go weiter. Before I go further, this shir should be the refuah of Viva Bas Shana, I think, or is it? What's Aviva's name, right? She's here for Shleiman. So, obviously, we understand that we're talking about the local people at the time. This is Adam the way we know it. Adam the way we know it. We're talking about those people, okay? We're not talking, I don't know what else happened. The Bible is not talking about anybody else. We're talking about that sector of Homo sapiens, which are the basis of the narrative. Now, what were they doing? Who were they? So let's start with Aleph Beis. The mice of if you have a piece, you have the sheet in front of you. There's a medrash, which is very important to see. I need a sheet. Did I give everything, all of them away? We get into an airplane and send it. Oh, thank you. The Medrash says, if you look at the first source, the pasuk in Mishlei, Perek Chav Zayin, pasuk Chav Beis, Im tichtoshet ha'avil b'machtesh b'toch harifot. If you take the fool, I'm going to call it that, just for the best translation I have at the moment, and put him into a mortar and hack him down with the pistol, you knock him over, okay? You're going to granulate him, literally. You hit him in the head, as if you said, Daf Zayin. What happens? Lo tasum meni valto. Nothing changes. You can hit him around, he doesn't chop. The idiot doesn't chop. And the Medrash says, okay, that's what Shlomo Melech says. No use of working forces with an idiot. He simply doesn't chop. So the Medrash says, what does this mean? This is a Medrash in Mishlei. It's also a Medrash Rabbah found here in Parshas Noach. He says, you actually have a text which quotes it. So if you go to if you have it here. Oh no, they don't. What? No, he doesn't. I'm sorry. So I have a text which should quote it. And then I'll read it to you, and then somehow we'll learn that text when we get there. The Medrash says as follows. It's a Medrash Rabbah and Tanchuma. Amar Shlomo, im tichtoshet avil b'machtesh, b'toch harifot ba'ali, with the pistol, you knock him around, lo tasor ivalto, his stupidity will not move away from him. Kach amdu doro shel enosh. Thus stood the door of Enosh. Enosh is the son of Seth. Shais, right? Equals Adam HaRishon's grandson. Okay, and what did he do? Kar'u shmo shakadosh baruch hu la'avodah zarah. He introduced paganism to the world. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, az huchal likro b'shem Hashem. They started calling everything with the name God. Equals, he started to say, let's not worship this infinite God. Let's focus on sun, moon, constellation Aries, whatever it only be. Okay. And what happened at that stage? You're probably not aware of it. Once again, God flooded a third of the world. I repeat, a third of the world means a third of the inhabited world at the time. Okay, that's a davar pasha. V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu yitzif shlisho shel olam. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, hakorei limei hayam, God called to the waters of the sea, v'yishpachem al pnei haaretz, and he poured them on the face of earth. Ani Hashem Shemo, because he wanted to let people know God is my name, equals, and not others, okay? Once you call my name for others, I drown you. No one has to understand why is that quid pro quo. Why is it rain or water, which is the thing that we do to counter kfira of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, but that's what happened. Okay, did man learn anything? So then the next stage. Dor Mabul, now we always think of Dor Mabul as a hedonistic society which was Gneva, Chomas, Arayos, read Rashi, all like the pretty, like the Great Gatsby's. You know, it's like the Roaring 20s. It's like you're having a lot of fun. Okay, let me describe the Dor Hapalagah for you, just to understand when we talk about Dor Hapalagah, what was it like? Okay, I'll describe Dor Hapalagah for you, and that's found at the end of Parshas Bereshis. We describe Dor Hapalagah, and it says as follows. This is where God loses his cool. The pasuk says in Parsha Vav, pasuk Aleph, "Vayhi ki echel Adam larov al pnei adama." When man started multiplying on the face of the earth, it's also in your sheets. I think it's in source Vav. Vayhi ki echel Adam larov al pnei adama. Ubanot yuladulam. They actually had females. So now the pasuk is going to describe how did humanity relate to the existence of females. So the pasuk says, "Vayiru b'nei Elohim ibnot ha'adam." Now, what is the translation of that literally? It means the children of the lords. Elohim means a lord. Anybody learn Sanhedrin in this area? Beis Amud Beis, Lashon Srara v'Rabbanut. The lords. It was the nobility, the blue bloods. The guys that came off the Mayflower, okay? I don't know, the Earl of Hook and what, you know, what the guy, those type of guys. Now they looked at these little girls at Bnosa Adam. Adam is from the word Adama, the earthies. In other words, the blue buds saw the earthy ladies. How did they react to them? Did they react to their intelligence? No, they used a common adjective that is usually called locker room language. And he says, what do they look about them? Ki toivos heina. They good. Equals she's an 8, she's a 7, she's a 6, she's a whatever, she's a question mark, whatever it be, she's something like that. In simple English, they objectified them. If you know how to read Chumash, for real, when I say hitova, she's a balas chesed, give me a break. When you say, hey, hitova, what does it mean? Well, you're not Israelis. When you say, she's good, it's like hot, right? Same idea, okay? That's what it means. They hot. So now I'm sorry, this is not being a rabbinical evening, but I got to present Dor Hapalagah the way it really was. They didn't speak rabbinical. So, okay, they objectified the females. These blue bloods, the Bnei Elohim, you know that he's a Cabot Lodge from Oxford, from Boston. He has the proper tie, ring, etc. You know, Phi Beta Kappa, blah blah, who's who in America, and he sees this waitress over there. Says, she good. What does that mean? How do you react when you look at the female and say she's good? Do you do a George Bernard Shaw? Did you decide to make educator? No. What do? It says what's the next stage they did. They took women from whatever they chose. So it's Rashi. What does that mean? So Rashi writes, couldn't care less if she's married. Well, if he's good and he's a male, what's the difference? That's a hot sheep. And I don't mean lamb, okay? So we see here in others they engaged in, basically, they objectified women. Therefore, they took sex in a very, very, very hedonistic, free, no restrictive way. They were simply there to gratify their own pleasures. There was nothing else involved. And they didn't ask questions. They just took whatever they wanted. It doesn't say that they proposed. This was a Roman orgy. Okay, this is what we're talking about. Literally, mamish a Roman orgy. Bulas Baal, Zacher v'Behema. Mamish. That's what we're talking about. If you read ancient Rome, you'll understand. Now, this is where they fell down to. And how long? 10 generations after creation. Methuselah was still alive. Adam had not passed away that long ago. And look where we went down from the third generation of creation, from Enosh. We went down so low. It sounds like a society which is, the Great Gatsby is the Tzniazdik. You know what I mean? This is literally Rome in the perverted, in Caligula's period. Okay? This is Caligula's Rome. That's mamash what we're talking about. Okay? I want to put in historical perspective so you should be able to attach yourselves to that. Wow, what happened to man that he fell? I know it's a slippery slope, but this is like a very slippery slope. What did it take man to fall from basically talking to God, from when Enosh was sitting on his grandfather's lap in a hot winter, in front of the fireside, obviously having a fireside chat like we used to have with President Reagan, and he says, "Hey, granddaddy, who walked you down the aisle?" "The Lord." "Uh-huh." "And who walked grandma down the aisle?" "The Lord." "Uh-huh." "Did you talk to him?" "Of course." "Uh-huh." Who did a nice leather suit in that closet there? Who tailored it?" "Lord Taylor." So it says, Lord Taylor, closet, they tailored the suit. Uh-huh. I'm trying to say that God had his house slippers in that household. It is not something he had to go to an Eshet Torah theology course to prove God's existence. He didn't know what it meant to be outside of God's existence. And granddaddy says, you want to know what really happened? I went to sleep one day and I woke up and there's this girl next to me. That's grandma. She was my rib. And look what happened. Right? This is the story he's telling to his grandson. It's not some kind of kiruv course, he had to figure out Mer Nevuchim, he had to do, proves God. Well, the Baba did prove through, I don't know. No! He didn't know what it meant to be outside of God. God literally had his house slippers in that household. It was a vivid, real thing. It was not cerebral. It was real. Okay? And I guess Tom saw, something, Grandma had this issue with the serpent. And we were walking around in our birthday suits. And, and all of a sudden we felt like very ashamed. And I hid like a rabbit in a warren. I was so ashamed of myself. And the Lord says, Adam, where are you? I can imagine my schoolmaster telling me that. Where are you, Mendel? And that's what he's saying, you idiot. That's what he meant to say. Okay? And that's what God says. Ayyaka means you idiot. Okay? So what is this about? So he's telling this whole thing. It's not like in the Chumash. It's like, my Zayda told me the story. The Chumash wasn't written yet. He grew up with this. This was as real as, to me, my father's stories of the Holocaust. I don't need to read a history book. I've seen and heard enough. Okay? There's certain things which are real. I don't need Dailim stories. My teacher were them. You know what I mean? I can tell you stories. I went with my Rebbe Kevin Rashiv on the beach. He did a headstand. Should I tell you great things? Okay? You know what I mean? A lot of making of a Gadol stories. So it's not a book. It goes together with breakfast. What makes a kid like that decide, I'll forget this God. I'm dealing with the moon. It should bother you. What made him run away from God? What makes anybody run away from a very, very strong presence, which basically, if you live with it clearly, you're quite restricted? What makes us run away from anything which may is true at all hell, but it's irksome? What makes you run away from a calorie count? Because then you'd have to keep a diet. What makes you run away from chemistry? Because then you wouldn't drink Coca-Cola and have French fries. What makes women walk away from gravity and anatomy? And that's because they don't want to think about back pain coming from stiletto heels. What makes all of you not live a life of science? You live a lifestyle which is totally anti-science. In the food you eat, in the clothes you wear, it depends. Okay, that would be here. You're more relaxed. But I remember there's a guy from South Africa that was here. He's a friend of mine. Lives in Tel Aviv. He always had the struggle between his shirt and the buttons. And not because he was fat, because he thought it was stylish to wear like, blah, like he's about to be like Clark Kent coming out of Superman. So just tear it off, so do you forget it, you know what I mean? This is the way it is. What makes people do these type of things which make no sense? Why would anybody wear clothes which is actually confining, which is actually, is not comfortable? Why would people do certain things? I had this once conversation with a female student of mine, but this is not, it's a really interesting question. I asked her, she once came into class, and she, this was style at one time, and her navel was exposed. I don't mean the Navy, right? Okay? So I looked at her and I said, Janie, do you mind if I ask you a question? She says, I was also a fetus. And I was nurtured with my umbilical cord. But after I popped out of the womb, they snipped it. Why do you want to show me yours? I can show you mine. Now that's a logical question. But Rabbi, this is attractive. Oh, you want to be flypaper. What do you want to attract? And she's totally unbelievable. I said, we had this long conversation on her image of importance is to the extent that she can attract hormonal reactions from the male Homo sapiens. She's objectifying herself, and that's how she defines herself. Poor you. I feel bad for you. You're born to be free, and you just put yourself in a terrible cage. What makes man want to do things like that? What makes man live anti-science, anti-anything? Because man does not want to be restricted. Man wants to live his dreams. Man does not want to know truth. Truths are restricting. Why do you all run away from truths? I am once, Israel's a crazy country. So, you shouldn't smoke. I gave up smoking eons ago, okay? Really eons ago. Wait. I haven't seen a cigarette for I don't know what. I think I smoked for the first 5 years in this yeshiva, and that's about it. That means from the age of 15 to the age of 35. A lot. Okay? I stopped. Whatever, it's an interesting story how I stopped, but that doesn't matter at the moment. That's it, Kamarnu. That's a lot. Let me tell you, my birthday was not that long. It's a long time ago. To say the least, okay? A lifetime ago. Okay? Okay, no, but I saw this sign, so I figured, why shouldn't you smoke? Because you're going to get emphysema, you're going to get asthma, definitely. I want to talk about lung cancer and other bronchial issues. There's a lot of issues. Obviously, everyone knows that, but that doesn't work for the typical Israeli sapien. So I see this thing on the bus that says, don't smoke because it'll make you impotent. They figure this will work. Which isn't crazy. I don't want to say what it looked like. It was really funny. Like this, whatever, the cigarette is burnt and curves down. Okay, and this is the idea that don't smoke because you'll be impotent. What does that tell me about society? That society does not work with its brain. It will not accept truths as they are scientifically or anything like that because he doesn't want to live in any restricted form. He wants total freedom of expression. For today's modern day society, ultimate freedom of expression is in his sexual encounters. Well, if I can't have freedom of expression in a sexual encounter, then Lomali Chayim. In other words, he also objectifies himself. What am I? Is it my IQ? No. Is it my beautiful ears and nose? No. You know what you are? There. Right. That's what you are. Okay? And if you can't be that, Lamali Chaim. That's mamash with that PR. I want to point out where we are and what society we live in. And this works. This is the Madison Avenue of Israel. What makes people do that? What makes people do that? Because they do not want truths, because truths are restricting. Truths don't give us the capability of imagination and making the world what we want it to be. We don't want to know mathematical truth. We don't want to know physics. We don't want math. No, we prefer the world of imagination where we can now give meaning and purpose to anything we want the way we want it and live the life of Riley. It's once you have the freedom to define everything the way you want to, then you create your own values, and you don't care about reading the ingredients of what this really is, you know what I mean? No, and you do what you want. You call it toivos heina. It's good. It's called objectifying reality and creating it according to what you're doing. You're living in a literal Lewis Carroll fantasy. You are doing nothing more than La La Land, in which you are now defining everything like the Mad Hatter at the Tea Party. And we all go into that tunnel, and we're going to have a little party together with all the crazy rabbits and the cards and the works. I don't know what they know. I've given up on humanity at the moment. Okay. Have you read Alice in Wonderland? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay? And that's what we are. We are a society which is running away from objective truths in order to live a fantasy world which we will write our own novel. I don't want to live by anybody else's novel. I don't mind if a certain novel fits with my palate, okay? But if not, I'll write my own novel. And the Dor Hapalagah does the same thing. It does not want restrictions. And they took it very far. But how does it all start? I have to walk away from a truth. That's Dor Hapalagah. It's not Gezel. It's not this. It's worse. The Chazal say they were doing the same thing as Enosh was doing. Running away from God. Because God is restrictive. If you want science, science is a truth. A truth is binding. You live by truths. You don't just acknowledge it and walk away. The truth is binding. Yes, whether you like it or not, if you drink arsenic, you're going to die. I don't feel like dying. It doesn't help you. You're going to die. That's science, okay? I got news for you. You're going to eat like a slob. You're going to end up looking like you have a porch. Hey, I have suits going from literally from 48 to 52. You know, I got a lot of sizes because I know it's like dieting. It's like the angels on Jacob's ladder. They come up, they go down. So that's the way it is. That's the reality. Okay, so I already learned that trick by now. You work hard, and then, you know, Hashem Shekochaloi, you know, you're like an accordion. Okay, this is the name of the game. Why is that true? Again, why is it true? Why? Because I don't want to know. I know the truth. No. I know it cerebrally. I don't want to internalize it emotionally, because if I will internalize it emotionally, I'll be stuck in a rut with it. And I won't be able to walk away from it. I will keep it cerebral and not internalize it in order not to be stuck with it. This is the name of the game. I'm running away from a truth because it's binding, it's constricting. I want to live in La La Land. I need freedom. Obviously, he's pointing out so far that Enosh needed freedom. Now, why did he need freedom? Then he goes to a next stage. And then the Medrash continues, and this is where it gets interesting. After Enosh made the mistake, and God flooded the world saying, guys, don't run away from me. I will find you wherever you are. It's like Clanard, you know, in the Last of the Mohican. You know, wherever you are, I will find you. Okay? So he showed, guys, you're running away too fast. I'm there. You guys get flooded again. Okay? Now you wake up, you figure, okay, man, 2 strikes. You figure that's it, right? Obviously, you got the message. You're not going to run. There's no use in running away. He will follow you and find you, and he will make sure that you remember he's around. What happens? They did it again. And this is the lashon of the Medrash when it describes Dor Hapalagah. Av Dor Hapalagah lo lamdu midorot harishonim. They too wanted to run away from God. So right now we know this migdal is something about running away from God awareness. One has to understand how hu dichsiv vayhi kol haaretz safa echat u'dvarim achadim. They had one language, one agenda. What was the agenda? Turn my back to God. We want to live our life without any constricted reality or restrictions in front of any truths which will not give us freedom to live our worlds. So we will once again stop thinking about it, deny it, and live our lives. we see here the Medrash makes a correlation as actually a chain of events between Dor Enosh, Dor Hamabel, and ultimately Dor Hapalagah. It's the same thing in different versions. And humanity has not learned, because I posit the reason today that we have selective halachic observance in our religion is also part of the same thing, because we do not want to accept truths. I'd love to ask the question, why did anybody daven Ma'ariv today? Oh, the Lord, give me a break. Why will you put on tefillin tomorrow morning? Granted, you all will, okay? And on time, okay? You're probably all nice little boys. You're going to come to Shachris, and you say Shema, and you do that all the stuff. Why do you do that? Well, I don't know. It's the thing to do. Okay. Social norm. Granted, very nice. So what other reasons do you have? Oh, because I want some cherry pie in heaven. Give me a break. You don't think about heaven, and you don't think about the cherry pie. Halavai, you should do mitzvahs because you have such a clear understanding of Gan Eden, and you mamish want sechar. That means you're very, very religious. I posit most of you people, it's there somewhere, but that's not the reason you're doing anything. Well, if it's true, maybe there's hell and I just don't want to get burnt. That's fair, but if that would be true, you'd be totally consistent. That means you wouldn't bottle a minute, because you go to hell also for one mitzvah of B'tul Torah, for a iota of avak lashon hara. And I don't know, should we start talking about all the different mitzvahs that we don't do that well? Sometimes God goes on vacation during Ben Azmanim. You figure he's writing tickets somewhere else because now we can do what we want a little bit. If you're really scared of heaven, or you really want hell rather, then you would be scared the whole time. Why are you not that scared on Saturday nights? I'm just scared on Mondays, Tuesdays, weekends. I'm not that scared. What happens? You took a pill. So it's obviously not that. So you're not doing because of heaven. You're not refraining because of hell. Why are you doing anything? What allows you to live a life in which your religion does not reflect a steady, consistent truth? Because if you were bound to religion because of a truth, you would be consistent. The same reason that you choose to look at French fries and hamburgers with Coca-Cola as a sumptuous, or pizza, as a sumptuous lunch or supper. God, Coca-Cola, man, you put that on metal, it corrodes. No, French fries, that oil hasn't been changed for 3 days, that's wax. Okay, do you understand that? Should we talk about hamburgers? You know what's in there? I know what's not in there. Meat. Okay? So for goodness sakes, what are we talking about? Did you ever try taking the stuff to a lab and see what's really in there? The nutritional value of that guck? Are you funny? You know what I mean? They left a cake in my house. It has this big red thing. Saturated fats. Too much sugar. And they buy it here. And the science says this is poison. Yet you get it Shabbos at Kiddush. Right? That's what you do. Why do people do that? Same thing. We don't care about truths. We choose not to see it. Every cigarette box says, beware. This is dangerous. And we told you why. Okay. Weiter. Hey, if people were worried about science, would there be any snorting in the world of cocaine? Are you out of your mind? Would there be anything non-scientific? Would anybody live a non-healthy lifestyle? No. Would there anybody not being makbid on Zman Tfilas, Zman Krishma, B'tul Torah, on Yosher and Gzela and Gneva? Would there be anybody who would dare use time as an employee for private enterprises, or suddenly use the office paper for his own private use without reshus? Didn't prutik, it didn't mayo. Would anybody dare use someone else's towel? Would anybody dare walk into a room when his roommate's asleep and not care, make noise? That's Gezel Shena, which is an Isser, which doesn't even have a shavat to it. You come back as a chuk for that. You can't have kapori. You have to really do tshuva. There's no vaheshims like Zayla on that one, my boys. Okay? I don't know what to tell this to you. Or Gnevas Das. Minig Amokoim, okay? Gnevis das, even if a goy is an issue the rights of Rabbi Yoina says. Gnevis mammon is a shaila of Amoraim, but Gnevis das is an issue the rights of Abin Noach. How many times is nice? The firmer you are, the more you want to connive against your local. I need a goy to cheat from, right? How else do you? They always say the Israeli economy is schwach. We don't have enough goyim to cheat from. Okay. Ich frage Akasha. No, where's that? How can there be a shul where you go to shul, but let's say it's a very fleshike kiddush because the lobby looks like a catwalk? How does that fit with religious consistency? How does it fit? You're an Orthodox shul. You're Orthodox. You're supposed to be, doesn't Orthodox mean ancient thought, ancient theology? Well, I don't see anything ancient or theology there at all. I just see at the most some social convention of certain behavior patterns which keep us in a certain traditionalist mode. I love Chicago. We're traditional Jews. We're not halachic. We're traditional. That's cool. That's Lenny Matanki, right? Like Kins used to be traditional. Now it's Orthodox. Okay? So there you have it. You know, hello? Are you Orthodox or are you traditional? In all truth, we all traditional. We don't have any docs to talk about because no one's thinking. Orthodox means ancient theology, ancient thought. First you have to think to do that. So obviously this isn't Orthodox. At the best it's orthoprax. But even that's not true because you're not practicing ancient customs. You're doing it quite selectively depending on social convention. So the reason most of you people put on tefillin tomorrow morning because you grew up with a certain social convention. And therefore it makes you feel good. That's granted. You feel good about it. Why? Because that you've been somehow trained, like a Polly wants a cracker, like a Pavlovian behavior, to feel good about putting on tefillin and feel lousy if you don't. Okay? And after a while, if you don't do it a few days, you don't feel lousy, you feel your left hand doesn't fall off, then you stop doing it all. It's interesting what happens. Basically, we're a bunch of Pavlovian dogs. We put on the tefillin because this is like the candy that we get for wagging our tail. The candy we get for wagging our tail is feeling comfortable with ourselves because we feel comfortable being part of a certain tradition. And we will buy all the ArtScroll Gdolim books and feel very comfortable because now I feel close to them. It's like buying a pinup and putting it on the wall. And I don't mean Reb Chaim Oizer, and feeling close to that. You're as close to God by reading all these stories as I'm close to John Lennon. If I put his picture up on the wall, okay. Seriously, in other words, man does not want truths. Because truths basically stifle you. It is very hard to live a truth. The truth is not something which is gratifying. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. There are many truths which are very not gratifying. For example, if the truth won't allow me to eat what I want to eat, or I have to live by science, etc., that means I can't give importance or definition to something by my choice, but I will define it exactly by science. Life would be boring. The theater would go bust. Novels would die. Fashion would die. Restaurants would go kaput. We'd all be wearing tents. There would be no more attractiveness in the world. Because that's not science. As much as you need to further the gene pool, I had this conversation with if you want to further the gene pool, that I understand. So please exhibit yourself and you will participate in furthering the gene pool. Okay? For that, you don't have to wear clothes. I'm trying to say reality is we live in a world of la la land because we run away from the truth. What did Enosh do? You see, in the time of Enosh, God was a very vivid reality. It wasn't like today, you believe in God. You don't know what the word means. You know, it's like God. What's God? God is God. You know, it reminds me of a student of mine. was once driving on the Peace Right. He calls me up and says, I got to tell you this story. You'll love it. Okay, he was riding on the Palisades, and they got into a gas station. At like 3 yeshiva bumpkins, and they got in, and yes. And the attendant comes out, and he looks at them and says, Salam Alaikum. My name is Stephen Gaines, soon to be Goldberg. He's about to convert, and he figures Gaines is not a Jewish name. He's in calls of Stephen Goldberg. Okay. And then he's like an Afro-American cousin. In those days, there were different descriptions of it, but that's the way it is probably today. And he says, they got it all wrong. A man can't be God. God is God. Very intelligent. And that's the basis of his conversion. You understand? A man can't be God because God is God. Okay. Yeah, maybe. Yep, possibility. Definitely an option. I don't know what the word God means, but I guess a man can't be it. We come to a conclusion. Unless he's a profound Rambamistic person, God has no form. But he didn't say this. He doesn't mind if not a man give you a name. But I just love the idea. He calls me and says, Rebs, you got to hear this one. Remember it. You want to hear another line? Okay, then another guy called me. This was in 1 week. He went with his mother to he was in Macy's. And you know, in Macy's, when you first walk in, there's like the perfumes and all that the first thing they catch you, if you go with your wife, she'll stop there, your credit card will roll, and then they'll let you buy the other stuff. It's a real trap. You notice you walk to Macy's, the olive base is the perfumes and the cosmetics, and then there's the jewelry, and then the shmatas. But if they nab you with the cosmetics and the jewelry, kapar and the shmatas, it was a Sefer Yosher. It's a Davar Pasha what they're doing. So he goes over there, and this lady says to his mother, Madam, would you like to have some decadence? Would you like to try decadence? And he says, no, why would I want decadence? See, it's the name of a perfume. But the line was, Madam, would you like some decadence? Yeah, I think everyone says yes, without the perfume. But that was like a real unbelievable. Would you like to try some decadence? Would you like to try some decadence? You all try decadence. You know what it means, right? Michelle, you do the Pirush Rashi afterwards. I don't know anymore. I've given up on the society. High schools today, they barely what used to be third grade. Okay? But anyway, so you can look it up on Wikipedia. Okay? There must be some translation of the word. Okay, you want to start some decadence. So this is a reality that I live in. I live in a world in which man does not want truth, man wants that. Now listen, if you live in a very, very strong God-oriented reality, you must realize one thing, that prior to something like 300 years BCE, the Hellenistic period, man did not know what it meant to live a world without God. There was no such thing. If you needed rain, you prayed to God. Which God was your call? I like this one. I want that. It's like you're going to be a chassid. Which Rebbe? It depends which Rebbe gives the better kugel. Okay? But that's basically, you check which shtibel has the better kiddush. Okay? That's up. Where do we get more pointers? Okay? But at the end of the day, there was no such thing as God, a non-godly world. It was only during that Hellenistic period which we suddenly stopped believing in gods as pristine, pure, and paragons of truth and values, because they're actually an incestuous, violent family. Like Venus is together with her father, etc. It's really the Brady Bunch. It's a very incestuous, violent family that man actually stopped. If you know your mythology, you actually stopped looking at them as paragons of truths, and suddenly man looked for values and truths more in the worlds of Plato, Aristotle, etc. Man looked for truths within himself, and the gods at that time were still powers which were quite dangerous and had to be appeased. But basically, I'm going to say very bluntly, the gods were deified. You speak English? They were the gods were not godly. The gods were dangerous powers which you had to appease. You had to take a shower in a bull's blood or check the liver whether it was speckled or not to know, am I going to get jinxed or not? Okay, that was what you were worried about. The gods became no God. It didn't take long in history when that finally stopped, because man through thought found reality, he can control things. He started developing a world of science and realized, oh, those things are just imagination. And the thunderbolt is actually nothing more than a loose, it's not that Lord Thor throwing it at people, it's actually a release of kinetic energy. And all of a sudden a comet doesn't mean it's an omen that the world's turning over. No, we can tell you when Halley's Comet is coming again. Okay? And all of a sudden the eclipse is no more, we have to do the rain dance and get the Indians with the feathers. No, I can tell you when the eclipse is going to happen. As soon as man became aware of the dynamics of science, the gods of power died. The gods of meaning died in the early Hellenistic period. The gods of power died with science. This actually started what we call Bimei Ezra, as soon as the Anshe Knesset Agdela were brought. It's a Gemara that says at that point in time, man stopped worshiping gods, Avodah Zarah. The Gemara calls it Shachtu Yetzahara Avodah Zarah. The Anshe Knesset Agdela prayed that there will be a paradigm switch and people will stop looking for Avodah Zarah. Okay, there's no more Avodah Zarah. What came in its place? Kfira. We're not going to choose another God. If we're going to go God, we'll go God. But who says there's God? That's a new reality. That happened b'mei Anshe Knesset Agdela. Lashon Rambam and Hilchos Avodas Yom Kippurim b'mei Bayis Sheni Tzatza Haminus. When did heresy sprout? In the beginning of Bayis Sheni. We walked away from Avodah Zarah, which went all the way from the third generation of creation through the Malachim, Shoftim, etc., Nevi'im, Rishonim, Medachim, Achronim, all the way, literally, until Anshe Knesset Agdela. At that point in time, exactly at that point of time, we were talking about the exact period of Alexander, etc. At that point of time, things switched. The Greeks deified the gods. The world stopped looking at gods for truths. They stopped looking up to the Olympus for rain. They started figuring out slowly rain. Well, that's actually a function of science. They stopped looking at gods as a meaning, and no, that type of God didn't exist anymore. The only God which existed was the God perceived by man, equals science, philosophy, math, etc. That's exactly, these are transitions of time. So let's go back to during the third generation of creation. None of them denied God. You couldn't deny God. There's no such thing as denying God. There was no science. So what do you do if you want freedom? You know a lot of things. When you choose not to think about them, they cease to exist in your minds emotionally. You know the world of science enough to know that certain things you do shouldn't be done, but since you haven't internalized it, it's not knocking on your door and hello, I'm here. You put it in your back burner, and you stop thinking about it. The more you stop thinking about it, it stops being a part of your functioning decisions in life. You all believe in Hashgacha Pratis. I really think you do. And yet you sin. How's it possible? You do things that you wouldn't do in front of your mother, and you do it in front of God? Man, brother, smach bocha b'yal dosecha. You can have a party on me. But remember what Solomon says at the end, but don't forget, there's payment at the end. You want a party, enjoy. Akad yava b'cheshbon. That's like the Koheles. Did you listen to Koheles or learn Koheles? Have a party. He doesn't say don't have a party. You want a party, gesundheit. But you can get stuck. Okay, so Pagin Dibura, Shlomo Melch says, this I'll do. It's Vedak, a call the Becheshbon. This is the Pagin and Nemonis. I don't like. There's the celestial scissors which comes from heaven and cuts the pasuk in two. That part we discard, and this part we keep. How does one emotionally do a thing like that? How do you blot out a truth? Do you believe in Kisvei HaKodesh? Do you believe in Hashgacha Pratis? No one here does not acknowledge Hashgacha Pratis. I'm sure of it. Forget if you be a shtickle more. You guys all believe that everything happens from, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, the bird does it on your head, hashgacha pratis. You know, the leaf falls. Most people, the Hasidic hashgacha pratis. You know, the local rat got into my house. Obviously, hashgacha pratis. Could be, maybe, building. Okay, you don't understand. The Ramban says that if you're a Russia, you ain't got no hashgacha pratis. Rishayim nitanim lemikre. It's a Fusha Ramban. Okay, so I actually think you're tzaddikim, and therefore everything's about hashgacha pratis. I don't mind. If you want to live in a house in Wonderland, part of it that you're a tzaddik. Okay, good, very nice. At the end, how do you do it? How do you do an aveira if you believe in hashgacha pratis? The answer is you know it cerebrally, but you haven't internalized it into emotional intelligence. Therefore, you can choose stop thinking. When you stop thinking about it, it ceases to exist. The only things that you take into account when you make decisions are things which are vivid and real. And here I'll tell you a story which happened to me, and I'll never forget. There's a student of mine. Oh boy, he's no kid anymore. We're talking about a student from 37 years ago. Okay? His name was Yehuda. In my younger years, I used to pick a student every year, and he used to come to my house Thursday night in Jerusalem, and we used to do mishmer, and you know what I mean? Those are the days when I smoked in the beginning, you know, so the place was full of Coca-Cola and cigarettes, and we learned the whole Thursday night. We did a shtickle of vasikin, and then, you know, fast breakfast, then we went again. The kids, they finally used to go back to yeshiva at 12 in the noon. That was nice. It was healthier in those days, and that's what I used to do. I remember we used to sit on the floor, you know, on the floor going through a rashba. You understand? You were so tired, so let's go on the floor. You know what I mean? It was really nice. So I remember one Ben Azmanim, my better half, she who must be obeyed and respected. She went to Paris to see her with her parents and with some of the kids, and I was stuck for whatever reason. I couldn't travel with her then. I had to be in Israel, as I kept two of the kids by me. And my friend Yehuda came. Okay, the lady left. Yehuda, we got a bachelor's pad for 2 weeks. So you understand, a lot of coke, a lot of cigarettes. I used to smoke Dunhill Reds, a very good cigarette, by the way, but it is a good cigarette, but I wouldn't go near it. But if you're gonna kill yourself, do it in style, okay? You know what I mean? So I remember. So the place looked like an ashtray. I mean, the whole house. Okay, like who did laundry then? It was like a bachelor's pad, you know, and the maid wasn't around. You know, Neil Young has a song, "A Man Needs a Maid." Well, I didn't hire one for those 2 weeks, and it looked yeshivish. Okay. The day is coming, my better half is returning. So me and Yehuda, we get together and we do a real scrub. We do the real, you know, Meitei and Baruch Hashem, spick and span, everything's working well. And I'm sitting there and I'm ironing shirts and folding laundry and the floor and the toilets and Baruch Hashem. You know what I mean? I did tshuva. Okay? Cleaned up the mess. That's what it is, right? Okay, then I'm sitting there and I'm saying, now what should I do? Should I take a cab to the airport? Or should I take, it was the old airport in Lud still, it doesn't matter. Or should I take a bus? I started making cheshbainis, what makes sense for me financially. And he suddenly looks at me and he says, Teda, atam mezuyaf. I love students like that. You're a faker. אני יודע, ולמה? He says, because אתה לא חשבת שאם תיקח מונית, נוכל ללמוד עוד שעה. One of your considerations should have been, take a cab, we'll be able to continue learning for another hour. I need a student like that. He's dying to learn, okay? We learned for 2 weeks. Mamish, we went to Minyan, but we didn't bother cooking, you know? You just, whatever is there, throw in the steaks, and not make steak, just put it on the fire, flip it around, and get some cucumbers, and open up a big piece of challah, and then that's your lunch. Breakfast, I don't know, eggs, you know? It's done. What does it take? If you don't have to wash any dishes, no problem, okay? You know, sometimes you think it stays in the sink for 24 hours, it's officially clean. You know, yeah, Bachrim, I know what yeshiva, what Bachrim looked like. I had a roommate like that. He somehow thought he used to take his shirts and chain and put them under his bed. Somehow he figured after 3 weeks, if it stays for 3 weeks under the bed, it's officially clean. He used to recycle them. He's a big Rosh Yeshiva today. I'm not sure. He is. big time talking. This is this way it was when they were Bachar. So the same thing here. She says to me, you're a faker. You didn't, part of your equation should have been, so isn't it worth taking a cab for that? I was making cheshbainis here and there. I didn't make that cheshbon. No, he was right. He was right. And it's true, after the Rav Blachman says, Rav Blachman writes, whenever you make a question, your first criteria should be, where is there more covered shamayim? If you have to A or B, where will there be more covered shamayim? And if there will be more covered shamayim, that's what you should do. And if there won't be covered shamayim, don't do it. So I'm not asking you to follow that advice because you won't be able to. It's much too far. But at least it should be part of the equation. That l'chara everybody can do. And if not, you're taka faker. Not the M's. Should I do this in life? Should I do that in life? At least one criteria should be, what's the time it covered shamayim? That's, I'm saying, Rav Blachman says that should be the decisive factor. Can't tell you to do that. I can say at least a factor. Man doesn't want that. Man doesn't want to be bound by anything like that because it doesn't serve him. It serves God. And man wants a decision which serves him. What does he do? He stops thinking, he takes the first sif in Shulchan Aruch called Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Samid and says, that's the one sif I'm not going to keep. I'm not going to live with the constant tension of the truth of God awareness. That ayin roya oizn shamas v'chol basecha b'sefer mechtav Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Tamid. You know what that means? I have God awareness in front of me 24/7, 365. That's the one sif in Shulchan Aruch none of you keep. Because if you would keep, there would no be such thing as SHO religion, equals selective halachic observance. There would be no such thing as, well, you know, etc. There wouldn't be such a thing as a lady having her hair covered, but her knees are uncovered. I in 5 towns for Tim Tzanachas. I'm looking at you, Yehuda, and telling you the truth. You know, go to the Young Israel and see for yourself. Okay? That wouldn't exist. Because it makes no sense, don't you understand? In social convention, it makes sense. But in emes, it makes no sense. Equals, it's only because you're running away from truth and choosing to do things because that makes you feel comfortable. Equals social convention. You're part of a society. If this is acceptable and I'll be happy with myself, that's enough. You are not serving God, you're serving your navel. And I don't mean the Navy. You're serving yourself. You are prostituting God's will for self-gratification. Should I say it in rougher words than that? You're a narcissist. You're engaging in self-gratification by using God's system to make yourself feel good. This has nothing to do with religion. It's not bad or worse. It's very nice, but it's not religion. This has nothing to do with the concept of mitzvahs. It definitely doesn't have anything to do with the word of Kabbalah's oil, Malchus, Shamayim. Are you kidding? I have a Kabbalah's oil, the Pagin Dibur on Kabbalah's oil. Brother dear, anything which is not Kabbalah's oil is Prikas oil. You're married with Malchus. Understand that that's what bothered Enosh. He had a heavy dose of God awareness because Granddaddy says, yeah, that suit is the Lord tailored it. The story of Eve is not Adam told him exactly what happened. I don't know what happened. Because I don't know what Pshat in that Chumash is. But Adam told Enosh exactly what happened. My granddad said, well, the Bible is going to be written in a few thousand years, has it in a metaphor. But let me tell you what really happened. And he told him everything. He grew up with it. I'm saying it very clear. God had his house slippers in that house. Okay? It's a household entity. It's as true as the New York Yankees. What can I tell you, you know? It's too true. It's very inhibiting. It's like living with Rav Soloveitchik in your house. You have to be on your tiptoes every day because then he'll tell you, you are a stupid person, right? Thank you. Every day? All day? It's like living with your mother-in-law. She's checking if there's dust. Are you kidding? Let me not think about him. So at least I will not be psychologically oppressed. And then I will stop thinking about him. I only have him cerebrally, but he'll be on my back burner and not emotionally. Then I'll be free to make my own world. I want to wallow in dust. As much as I put him in the back burner, I am released. As much as I push him away from my internalization of emotional intelligence, and it's only cerebral intelligence. Oh yeah, he can't deny it. He's here. God's a phenomenon. Yeah, we don't have to think about you. It's here. It's like you guys in science. You know, you're not machashite. No, you're not people that don't think the corona exists. Right? I think you think corona exists, right? Hopefully, right? Unless you read different newspapers. Okay? So you're obviously not machashite. I think most of you at least went to an American high school. Okay? Not what Kiva, you went to some different education. But let's say the Americans here, they had something which is called a high school education. And to the extent that at least you know that science exists, right? Hello? Yeah. But you're going to choose not to care about it. Yeah, will I wear the mask? Will I not wear a mask? Yeah, come on, do me a favor, blah, blah. There's enough, I can't handle it. Whatever, I can't handle it. Is that a scientific reason? No, I can't handle it, so stop telling me the truth. Oh, but it's for suffering the fascists. Yeah, I know, but come on, give me a break. It's like intelligent MDs which will snort. I'm telling you the truth. Taylor says, give me a break. It's true, but not now, okay? Just because I'm a mathematician, that doesn't mean I became an equation. You know? I don't want to live with equations. I want to live, hallelujah. Don't tie me down with truths. So that's what happened. That's why he ran away. Because he looked at it and says, I don't want a direct relationship with this God. He's too inhibiting. But I believe that everything is the will of God. And I believe when I look at the celestial powers, I believe, as the Rambam thought, and for many centuries thought, they are ministers in God's court. So I know that they really are nothing. They're nothing more than ministers of the king, and they all do nothing more than embody the authority of the king. But talking to the king every day gets me antsy. You know what it's like? Can you imagine? You're a nice, sweet guy from Tallahassee, Florida. You eat hero sandwiches. You go bowling. You know how to put down a six-pack. You don't like single malts and golf. You know, you're not from Scarsdale. Okay, man, you're a redneck. Okay, you go into this firm, and the president, which has an office on the 44th floor, he actually thinks you have potential. He says, hey, come on, I want your office near mine. I says, oh, no. Now I got to be with a guy with golf and single malts and cigars. And I want bowling and wear torn jeans. I want to, you say, guys, do me a favor. It's a bit irksome. Do you mind if I just stay on the 20th floor with the department head? He embodies your authority, and I will honor you by honoring him. And I know he's nothing more than an expression of your honor, but at least with him I can wear my torn jeans, and he does go bowling, and he does drink beer, and we can, curse together. Life is much more comfortable. He is not inhibiting. With you, I have to live perfection. That's exactly what Enosh introduced to humanity, because truth was too inhibiting. God, Shivisi Hashem Yudke Vavki Lenegdi Tamid was so vivid and real for him. It's like living with your mother-in-law. Let me put it in the back burner. I won't deal with you directly. Do you mind? I will deal with your department head, which is really nothing. He's only your agent. But at least I have to see you every day. I have to think about you. Because didn't you give powers to this department head? Isn't the seasons due to the moon, the sun, whatever it is? That's how it started. Read Rambam, Hilchas Avodah Zarah, Perik Aleph. He elaborates on this. That's how it started. It's not that they thought they were God. No, they figured God has a court. I'd like to deal with the earthy earl than deal strictly with the prince. Too inhibiting, demanding too much. So it started. They were not denying God. They just chose to have an indirect relationship with him because awareness of him makes life so much harder. It's very demanding. My friends, that is the Isser of Avodah Zarah. The Isser of Avodah Zarah is giving meaning to anything outside of him and having an indirect relationship with him. The Ramban writes that if you pray to angels, that they should bring your rachamim into him. He writes, this is Avodah Zarah. He literally writes about the piyut machnise rachamim. He says, Masha Nogo Mechzir Rachim, this is Avodah Zarah. So you can sing it. Especially on Rosh Hashanah, when you want kapor for your Avodah Zarah, I suggest you engage in Avodah Zarah on Rosh Hashanah. It's a very nice thing to do, as part of your tefillah. Okay, according to the Ramban, you're doing Avodah Zarah. First, your Ramban. People don't know the Ramban, they think it's a Chasam Sofer. It's a Ramban. That the piyut of Mechnei Rachim is Avodah Zarah. Why? Because you're substituting a direct relationship with God and you're circumventing it by going to a medium. God wants a direct relationship. He does not want you to run away from Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Summit. So one generation tries to run away from a direct encounter. The next generation, but it still had a vivid understanding that there is God. Because he was the grandson of Abraham Arishon. By 10 generations later, that running away from God awareness slipped into the unbelievable self-centered subjectivity of hedonism in the unbelievable way that no one meant anything. You are all here to give me pleasure. All of existence is now nothing more than subjective. There's no more meaning at first the subjective self. It all started, look, I understand this truth, but I need a release from some of them. It came to reality that there is no truths. It's a postmodern world. It's all a subjective truth, and therefore my subjective truth is they is good, so I will enjoy your wife, your brother, and my dog. That's Dor Hapalagah. It's man running away, trying to release the pressure of truth, falls into total forgetting that truth even exists. It started with a very good person. I understand Enosh. I would probably do the same thing. I could understand why he did it. When the truth is so profound, it chokes. He had a hard time. I understand where he's coming from. But the slope is very clear. It didn't take 10 generations. People have forgot the concept of truth. And existence was totally postmodern, literally totally subjective truths. Everyone had his truth. My truth is animals. Bestiality, homosexuality, and just purely wife snatching. It didn't take long to move from dimming the intensity of truth to total forgetting that it exists. That's your stage number one. Mir Hashem, next time we'll go to stage number 2. Bye. Good evening.